G'day, Mick here. Hope you're having a cracker or have had a cracker of a day. Welcome to my intro video to my new creation, Canvas UI. So we've got a lot to go through. I'm going to do this in a one-take video, no edits, no cuts. So if I stumble and fall, I'm going to pick myself up and we're going to keep going because there's a hell of a lot to go through. But let me start off. I've written a little bit of a spiel to read out to you guys, just to give you an idea of my thoughts and what Canvas UI is. I always wanted to be able to build genuinely beautiful Home Assistant dashboards that didn't use a grid of cards, not a list of entities, but something I could truly actually design. And Canvas UI is what I come up with. Canvas UI obviously is a HACS add-on, completely separate visual editor for Home Assistant. Think ioBroker.vis for those who know ioBroker, which I used as a Home Assistant front end for the longest time, but more modern, fast, and built for HA from the ground up. You get a drag and drop canvas, 28 purpose-built widgets, including a LoveLace widget, real-time entity bindings, a visual flow system for front-end automations that doesn't replace the standard Home Assistant automation system, and a beautiful AI assistant that can generate an entire dashboard from a single instance. So without further ado, as I said, we've got a lot to look at. Let's jump into it. So firstly, let's take a look. When you install the HACS integration, you're going to get a Canvas UI slug in the left-hand HA menu. And then what you have here is obviously, this is the canvas. This is the canvas. And then on the right, you have what I call the inspector. So what the inspector has is several tabs across the top. So view is everything you would set for your view. In this case, it tells you the actual coded name for the view, the name you actually created for the view, the background color, its opacity, and then if you want to, you can load an image as a background. And later I'll show you some really cool things that are built into Canvas UI that help you do that. And then across the top, you have the toolbar, which from left to right shows you the name of the current view that you're in. If you click the I widget, you can click and you get a pop-out menu that shows you all the current views that you have installed or created. And then eventually, when you want to create a view, this is where you would click the button here and a blank canvas will get generated. Next, you can clone a view. So if you wanted to create a template view, for example, that you then wanted to ongoingly, if you wanted to have a top bar and a bottom menu, you could do that and then save it, and then you just continually clone it every time you needed it, and then add in the missing pieces. You can go ahead and download your view if especially if you ever thought something was going to go wrong. Download your view, because you can always then import them later. This is really also great that the community can then start to share views, or if you create for example, exists like this, a calculator view you can share it to the community, and then they all can have import views that they can edit as well. And then you have delete a view. Here you go ahead and obviously, as it says, you would delete it. You also, all deletes and stuff like that all give prompts. So if you accidentally click buttons, don't fear, I got you covered. Then importantly, you have several tools, which I'll give you a brief rundown just for now, because we'll get back to some of their features later. So here we have Canvas UI has its own built-in file manager. So here you can upload pictures, you delete them, you can list view, you can go into table view, delete, upload, create new folders, etc., etc., etc. That they'll be accessible later. Then you have here, this is a Canvas UI variable system. So what I didn't want you to have to do is every time you needed to create a variable that was just purely front end specific, so that buttons could interact with one another. So in this instance, you could have, once you learn the binding system or the flow system later on, you can see how you won't need to create home assistant automations in order to make this view function like a calculator. So what you could do is create a variable that stores the value that's getting calculated as it progresses. So in here you can create a variable. So if I want to create a new one, I can create hello, and I'll leave the variable blank, and here we go. I can call this variable later on, where you'll see, and it stays in local and HACS server file system, so it won't get lost, so it'll work between browser to browser. Then you have the flow builder, which some people would think it's maybe a replacement for Home Assistant automations. It's not. It's purely based around creating interactions and connections between widgets in a particular view or views. So if I click one here, it's all flow Node-RED style things. And so basically here you can see, which I'll show you how it works a little bit later, you have, for example, widget properties. So I can jump in here and I could choose a widget and decide what that widget was. Right, so I have many widgets. I choose the widget that I want. Let's see. The Java's title. And then I can choose if I want to grab the text as the output, what the font size is, what the color, the position, etc., etc. And then it would output here, and then enter the set widget in this case, and you can set which widget you want to input. Calculated display, you want to edit its background color, its height, its value, etc., etc., etc. Entity, you have lots of different options here. You have an entity state widget, a canvas variable that you can call. Remember before we can call one of those into here. Date and time, user input, and a HTTP request. Process nodes allows you to do certain mathematical functions, string operations, string comparisons, logic gate, conditions, loops, delays, and even run JavaScript. Output nodes allows you to set different properties of a widget. You can call the service, set a variable, do a HTTP post, store something in local storage, output to the browser console log, activate a screensaver or dismiss the screensaver, which we'll learn about screensavers later. And then each flow has a trigger. Most triggers can be generated automatically, so you won't have to worry about that, but you can go in and manually change them. So then after that we have AI settings. So I've implemented what I believe from testing are the best ways to do it on a budget. And then you have different percentages of success rates and what you can and can't get away with. So you've got Llama. So anyone who does local. I've added OpenAI, GitHub models. These are the free models for GitHub. And I've added Grok. These are purely for the free Grok models. Now I've added the Open Web UI API here because I'm not 100% sure why. I think it might be because of the RAG and the tools that Open Web UI brings to the table on top of a Llama. But what I find when I run AI requests through Open Web UI, what I get back is much better than using a Llama on its own. Then there's GitHub Copilot Proxy. Now I use I think it's Coxie is the what's it called? Docker container. I've got notes. There's a whole pile of instructions and notes on the GitHub to guide you, and I'll create separate videos later as we go. But even OpenAI, the cloud it works great. Okay, it works. It's about 85%, but most of the views that I'm about to show you, all done through Claude Sonnet, and I think it's 4.6. I think it is, and for some strange reason, its tools and its vision detection models, and because it's crazy. Like by far, it does the best job. Now, some of the smaller AIs, because you have to be aware when I show you the prompts. Some of the prompts are pretty intense, depending what you're trying to get out of it. But I believe, so I run Coxie, and what it does is it allows you to use the GitHub Copilot AI models inside of it. Creates an OpenAI API compliant endpoint for the GitHub Copilot models, and I think I'll be using that moving forward, even for Home Assistant. I'm going to work out a way to use it for Home Assistant because for the small fee that you can pay per month, to have the OpenAI models at no extra cost, and then, in my opinion, regardless of the tokens used for prompts to generate UI, when you see what you can, I got addicted to just creating AI generated views. But so what I've done is implemented it so that you can then, after you set up Coxie, you can then add the different bits and pieces you need to be able to talk to the Coxie Docker container to access those models. You can also, once you have installed Coxie, you can actually add the GitHub Copilot models to Open Web UI, and you can access them through the Open Web UI part in here as well. So let's move on. So as I said to you, this is very token intensive, and it gets more and more depending on how you want to do it once I explain to you how AI works. So I've created this so that they're locked, right? Because after, trust me, the prompts that I've introduced are done for the most, and you have to be careful because the prompts tell the AI how to structure the output so that Canvas UI knows how to implement it. I've done certain bits of code that tries to strip out any weird garbage that you might find. On the odd occasion, you might find you might not generate a working view in, let's say, 2 out of 10 tries. But you can see here the system prompt create mode, what it does. It tells it what it's doing, what its requirements are, just a little tiny snippet of what it should do from what you've given it as a prompt. When you want to create something, so what it does is it knows if the view is empty, you're creating something from scratch. And then if it detects, if you run an AI prompt on a view that has widgets on it, it uses a different prompt so that it knows that to be careful that there's widgets already on there, or that you're likely going to be asking a question to make a change to any of those widgets. It then feeds it a full, as cut down as I could, list of the current widgets and how to use them. And then the rest of it is basically instructions on how to generate the output that it needs, and to make sure of certain things it does and doesn't do when creating that output. So just be very careful about editing these, and that's why I said I've locked them. You can go ahead and unlock them and change them to your heart's content, knock yourself out. If you come up with some cool ways that work better than I do, please sing out and let us know. After that, in the tools, we have Canvas UI settings. There's only one thing in here, and that's what I've done is I wanted something that users could easily grab images to use without having to scour and leave Canvas UI to get images. So what you do is you create a Pixabay API account and Pixabay API account, and then add it here, and then you'll see later on there's for backgrounds and stuff like that. You can then go and search the Pixabay website, choose an image, it'll download and then get used as a background later. And AI also has the ability to access Pixabay if you happen to instruct it, for example, and sometimes it does it without you even instructing it to. It goes and grabs images for you. So now, firstly, let me say that this view you're looking at was created completely by an AI prompt to Claude Sonnet 4.6. All I did was say to it, create me a view with a calculator on it, and that is inspired by Jarvis from Iron Man. It crunched away for a few minutes, for a few seconds, and this is what it came up with. I touched nothing. This is purely, I didn't have to do anything to create this view. So the Canvas UI has 3 view modes. So you have edit, and edit is obviously, as it says, you'll see all the other tools on the toolbar, and you're also going to see all of these, widget marks and that. And when I'll show you more about widgets later. But you have this mode, edit, which you'll see the toolbar and the inspector. You'll always see the toolbar, but half the tools won't be there. And you'll see the inspector. So if we show you the inspector again now, you can see how if I click widget, and whichever widget I click, its type is shown here, its internal ID is here, the name, the widget name, you must give widgets a name, and you'll see why that is later. But then you have all its positioning on the screen, and its height and its width. Canvas UI supports Z index. For people who don't know that means, it means the higher the Z index, the further in front the widget will be on top of something else. Because what you're going to be able to do with Canvas UI is overlay one widget or 2 widgets or 3 widgets all stacked on top of one another to create a view. You can even create, you can have a LoveLace widget, and you go, I wish I had a button there. You just, on top of the LoveLace widget, you just whack another button. So, and in this case, for buttons, and you can, I'll show you rotation and stuff like that in a second, but then you got whether you want to show an icon, got icons have a picker. Everything has pickers and stuff, except when you understand how the binding system works, some of the places where you have to do things will be text, because you're going to be able to add an entity where you would not normally add an entity, for example. So this color option for the text is HTML color code, and yes, you can go in here and open the color picker and set a color, right? But I could easily, when I'll show you later, I could add if I didn't do this, I could add an entity in curly braces, right? I could add in here, I could add an entity, like a set of helper, for example, or another entity that has a color, and instead of having to hard code the color in here, when the entity changes, the color of this will change. So you basically have every widget will have a positioning field, style field, and behavior fields will change depending on the functionality of the widget. So they're the positions that you'll have things that aren't standard across all widgets, but position and background. So you can set a background image, background, border, You can have every widget lets you to have a radius for all 4 corners. So, for example, if you want a circle, you would just create 4 borders at 365. And for example, you want a round button, you would just do 4 corners 365, and you have a round button. So, and then you have shadows. So if you want to have shadows on your buttons, you can have insert. You can choose to have the shadow on the outside of your widget border, or if you click insert, your shadow will be created on the inside of your border. And then what you have here is visibility. So what this allows you to do is create different conditions in which the entity, the widget will be visible. So you click state, you can choose the entity and the value, and if the entity is that value, it will be the widget will be visible, and if it's not, obviously, then you won't see it. So you can choose when the entity appears or doesn't appear. Now the widget, appears or doesn't appear. One interesting feature that I'll show you quickly. So let's move on. So as I said, yeah, so you've got edit. In here you'll have obviously your views again, which you can change here. And on here you have a list of all the widgets on the calculator or on the view, and you can disable them from the view by checking the box here. And then the final, then now what you can do, as I said, there's 3 modes. I'm jumping around, sorry folks, I'm jumping around a lot here. There's a lot to get over, and I want to do it all in one video. So just forgive me. Take in what you need to take in. Don't take in what you don't need to take in. It's all about us all having a bit of fun. So the other mode is preview mode, which allows you to see the widget or the widgets. Oh, I've got that visibility set. What did I do? Change the condition. Delete. So this shows you what it would look like without all the extra edit lines and stuff like that. So the Viz Canvas will be, when you've got this open, it's going to be not massively, but it's going to be resource intensive for a good reason, because I wanted it to have all the bells and whistles. But the good thing is that you're only going to now look at the Home Assistant UI for editing. And that means like automations, Canvas UI, all those sort of things. You're only going to need to come here when you want to make changes, because up here you'll see there's a button, kiosk mode. If I click that, it opens up in its own view. This is what you'll see on your tablet, on your touch screen on a Raspberry Pi, this part of it is very very low, minimal resources just to be able to show the view and work it. Now, and then what happens is here is you have a unique URL system where it gives you where you would, to get to this view, all you would need to do is have it go to URL with your Home Assistant API and port. Sorry. The Home Assistant IP address and the port. Then you would put canvas dash kiosk hash, and then the name of your view with a dash or hyphen to replace any spaces, and voila, you end up at this page. So if I push F11 here to go full screen, you can see this looks cool. Yeah, this is awesome. This is flaming a thing of beauty. So let's exit back out of here, and a lot of the widgets, if I exit out of here, I think it's back to edit. Let's go now to and then finishing across the top of the toolbar, you've got, if you want to add a widget, and then you get a list of all the different widgets, and there's some brief tabs to lengthen down the list. But you have a button widget, a text widget, a gauge widget, a camera widget, slider, switch, image widget, icon widget. You're gonna love how I've created what I've done with the icon widget. You'll love it. And progress bar widget, a progress circle widget, input text widget, so you can have a spot where you can go and enter something and hit the enter button. A keyboard, on-screen keyboard pop up when you want to enter in something, a particular field. There's a flip clock. You're gonna love the flip clock. There's the digital clock. There's the knob, iframe. iframe I'll show you a little bit later. Basically, iframe, you can load something that's not protected from the web to show. It would also be, for example, if you have specific pages in the LoveLace dashboard. Energy, for example, is one that you've got, like an energy view and stuff like that, and you want it to be a page in Canvas UI. You basically just do a whole page iframe and embed that page into it, so that you're not having to move away from the Canvas UI infrastructure. Borders are basically exactly what it sounds. You create a border, it's blank inside, so it gives you a canvas to create. Like now, this calculator, the whole calculator starts off being built inside a canvas, and then all the other widgets are laid inside that canvas to give us the calculator. A LoveLace card is exactly how it sounds. I've done the best I can, and we'll all work together to. I haven't gone and intensively tested against every widget and every card. As we find bugs, we'll just make them work. But I'll show you later that there's a lot of cards work, and you're only going to need to use cards, because I didn't go to the point of creating massive list of widgets, which I'll create more later, but I didn't want to reinvent the wheel when some people have done the hard yards and created cards that that'll basically facilitate some of the needs rather than build something from scratch. But the difference here is once you embed a card into a LoveLace widget, you can just move it around the screen. You can locate it wherever you want. And as I said before, you can put a LoveLace card on another widget, create a border, put 5 LoveLace widgets inside it, put a widget on a LoveLace card, stuff like that. You've got a value widget, which you output numbers. You've got radio buttons, so you can create any number, a list, vertical or horizontal list of radio buttons that connects to entities. You've got a color picker, so I'll show you that later. It's basically a widget that gives you the ability, you click it, a color picker pops up, that the color widget's connected to an entity, and when you select the color, it sends whatever the color you choose from the color picker to the entity. There's a weather widget. It's okay, it's fairly basic. I didn't want to reinvent the wheel again, but it's easy and does the job. The resolution widget is not so much a functional widget. You'll see how that gets used as we progress to create the size of your view. You have a HTML widget that works exactly how it sounds. You have a blank HTML prompt. You enter HTML in it, and whatever HTML you enter in it, it's going to appear in the widget. You have a basic calendar widget. It's not a true calendar. I'll work on it as we go. It's like a what's going on today type of thing. You've got a scrolling text widget. So obviously exactly how it is. You can connect the entity to it, to preset text, and it's going to scroll from left to right or right to left in the size of the widget that you create. And then the screensaver widget is exactly how that is. So you basically, I'll show you later, you basically drop a screensaver widget onto the view that you want the screensaver to work in it, set an inactivity delay, and you can see the widget in edit mode, but you can't see it. It's hidden in preview mode and kiosk mode, so you can place it anywhere you like in your canvas, wherever it suits you. And you can either choose to dim the screen and choose a dimming value percentage, or you can choose it to load another view. So basically you can set up another separate view that you want to appear as the screen when the screen inactivity screensaver turns on. So that's a brief rundown on widgets. Now, when you do certain things, I think I created, it's a 30 change, undo and redo, so it remembers the last 30 changes that you've been working on, and you can undo and redo from those. And then basically I'll show you how all these alignment tools work later on, but also you have a grid system. So I think the grid system is best we start to move into having a look at what some of the widgets can do. So let's change view here. Maybe let's show you some of the other things. Everything I'm going to show you now was created using AI. Everything. So let's take a look at some of the. I've got 2 different Home Assistant setups. I've got a demo one, and I'll show you a little bit on both that I've created. But this is my semi-main copy of Home Assistant with a lot of different entities built in, so I can show you more here, but there's some other cool stuff on the other one that I'll show you as well. So the next one is test view. What that is let me grab the image. Here. So see this image here? I grabbed this off the internet and I attached it to the AI, and I said, basically, do the best job you can do to clone this view. All right. Take a look at this view. I'll move it off the screen for a second. And check out this view. Holy crap. This is what it came up with. One pass. One single pass. This is what it did to clone but this view just from an image. Not bad. Not bad. This is another interesting view as well. This is another view that I tested. So this view here, I did after trying the other one that was a little bit wasn't as dense with features as this one. I thought I wanted to try how well it would do, just asking it to do its best job it could to reproduce what it's seen in this picture as a view. Right? Look at it. This is what it came up with. Holy crap. Check that out. That's insane. One pass. I've touched none of this. I have had to manually touch none of this. It's not perfect, right? But I wanted to show you how close it came. And it's obviously not showing camera views in here because I didn't set any. But golly Josh, by Jingo by Crikey, this is this is like, but once again, this was done with Claude Sonnet 4.6 or something in using the Copilot API. Holy crap. All right, let's move on to the next one. Geez, this video is going to go massively long. Anyway, we're having fun. Let's keep going. So this one, these get more and more intriguing. Let me show you this one. This view, I ask the AI to create a view with a calculator in the style of the dashboard from Kit from Knight Rider. This, once again, I've edited none of this. This is purely exactly what it spat out. Isn't that amazing? Like, I can't explain. But you're not going to get this without. But I think with the Copilot AI, I think it's good value. I think it works out really good, being that you can choose to use token intensive models, but still then fall back to like ChatGPT 4.1 that doesn't use any more than you like that you can use it right until the end of your month. There's no expiry. So let's get rid of this one. Now I ask the AI to create me some demo views of some of the widgets, so I could give you an idea of what some of the things you could do with widgets. So the first one is the button widget. So here's all the things you can do visually. There's still some stuff missing, like you can't yet. There's no shadow or stuff like that in here, or different things like that. But when I show you some of the, just as a brief thing, I've created the button widget to be very multifaceted. So it does a really good job of trying to auto detect what type of entity you've given it and what it needs to do. Then you can either set it to toggle. Obviously it does exactly as it's pronounced. You can set it to turn on, just the turn on function, the turn off function, a custom service, navigation. You can use the button to navigate to a view. You can use it like obviously the same one. You can use the open a URL. You can also use it to send an MQTT message. But this is what I was saying to you before. If you set the border radiuses to 360 each, right? That's cool. I love it. Just as another, let's try this. Where are we? Because with button, I'll go through button stuff again later. So the next view, we'll switch over here to do the views. Next view is my gauge widget. Which is basically the React React gauge. It's full size. So you have a radial style, a grandpa style, and a semicircle style. And then you have different types of needles, and you can set the different color at different portions of the radius. The arc and color zones, the needle customization, the different colors and thicknesses and lengths and stuff. You can choose whether or not you see a value or don't see a values connected to entity. And there's display options. So no value, no ticks, no label, or needle only. And I'll show you how that works a little later. But here's some real world examples. Temperature, blah, 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 blah. Let's move on to the next one. The icon widget. Now the icon widget, these ones I removed, don't worry about these ones. But the icon size, different outlines. You can outline the icon so you don't have to. There's the icon and shadow and that. I changed it since I've edited it, but I didn't recreate the view. But icons can be rotate it at any speed you want. But this, I mean, look at this. This looks awesome. This is crazy. And you can see the glow here, the border, the shadow effect, and all of this rotation functionality can be controlled from an entity. So when, instead of having a card now that you do, I want to have automation on it, you just basically rotate it or set its visual status to have it appear or not appear or whatever you want. So various colors. Here's some advanced combinations. This looks cool. I love the way this looks. Now, I'll show you this in a second, but icons can be used. You can load an icon as a progress bar, and I'll show you that a little bit later. Excuse me, I need to have a drink. Bloody hell. Let's move on. I created a knob or dial widget, and you can do all sorts of dials and knobs with it. It's various different markers, none, a dash, a dot. You can change the numbers around the outside and how many and what steps and etc, etc, etc. So there's all different types. Progress bar. There's two different versions of the progress bar. There's this one. It can be solid, segmented, gradiated, stepped, or striped animation. It has vertical and horizontal rotation, positioning, orientations, and you can choose whether or not, when it's segmented, whether it's as it fills, whether it's hollow, it's outlined, dimmed, invisible, or segmented with no gap. So you can do all of this fun stuff. Look at this one with the glow, and it looks mad. So that's that. And the last, no, second last, you have the circle progress bar, circular progress bar. And do all sorts of funky stuff with that. This looks cool. I like this one, and I like this one. Once again, this, I didn't choose the way this was AI just took what it knew of all the settings and just generated these for me. And the last one is the slider widget. There's more widgets. These are just ones I decided to have AI create me some samples. So you've got horizontal and vertical. You can choose or not to have values, step sizes, color themes. Now I said I wanted to have different sliders, different knobs for sliders. And I thought, how can I have different knobs? And I've gone, I'm implementing a full massive library of icons. So just let you have icons for slider knobs. Like, that's insane. Like, and so you can just have, and the slider and the icon can be different colors, stuff like that. And there can be different thicknesses and different lengths, and you name it, Bob's your uncle. All right, so we'll just walk you through a couple of different other ones. So this is this, I'll show you this other one. I'll show this on the other one, but because I don't have the entities here. But this is a HVAC. This is cameras. I can't show this one because it needs to be looked at in the other. All right, now this one's another insane one. I tried something different to give the task for the AI to do. And what I done, if I show you, this. So let's full screen this. I gave this image to the AI and I said, use this as a template and create me a security panel based on this type of layout and this type of color theme. And this is what it created. Like, obviously it didn't create all the same outlines, but you can see how it's paid attention to the color accent and that it's 3 panels and it's blue with light blue, bright blue outline with reflection and stuff like that. So for not having to lift a finger and have a completely custom layout, it doesn't show cameras because obviously don't have this on the system that I have all my entities on. But I mean, this is Cuda Mundra. Like, this is this is the Cuda. As I said, I've been addicted with creating AI. Now, obviously, not just you don't have to just create views like this. You can use it for simpler things, and you can use the basic, like you can use Olama style AI for some basic things. And when I get to the AI, when I create an AI video, I'll walk you through some more of those type of things. So let's back out of this one. Flip clock. Now, this one's insane. This one is, I didn't expect that this is what the output was going to be. Right? Now, one of the widgets I created is a flip clock. So you can add a flip clock to your view. What you're seeing here is me saying to AI, I want you to create a view of a 1950s radio, and as part of that, add the flip clock. Now this one, I had to move the dials around ever so slightly and change a couple of the settings, but by and large, this is 95% of what it came up with. This is insane. This is, right? Have a look at what it's used. You know, it's taking buttons and created outlines. Look at the color scheme, right? Look how it's used. It's used border widgets, right? I hadn't thought about this, but it's used border widgets where the width is basically, the border is laying on top of itself to create some of these other lines. Like, it's great. That's a border widget that's tiny with 1 pixel border. And then up here, I have it's used another border widget here as the moving bar across the channel guide, the frequency guide, and then it's used. It's used. I think if I have a quick look here, it's used. It's used a text widget with a whole pile of vertical lines in it. Like, I'd not have thought to use that in this instance. That's insane how it's thought to use that in the context of creating what you see. Mind-blowing. Let's move on. This is a view to show you something that I use Llama in OpenWebUI and basically said create 7 buttons, make them all red and round. When you're using this type of AI, you have to be very specific on, and so I tend to do dot points of exactly what I want it to do, so it's not, so it doesn't have to break down what I'm trying to do out of a conversational string. So create 7 buttons, make them all red, make all the border, then the next line, make all the border radiuses 360 degrees. On each of the buttons, add a different day of the week, and then another one that says also on the left hand side of all the days of the week, add a calendar icon. This is what it come up with. This is Llama using the Quem. I have a 16 gig card, and I have it do this in Quen 2.5 Coda 14B. This is what I get. This is still pretty cool. This saved me ages of having to create 7 individual buttons. But amazing. Now let's go. That's exhausted the views on this one. Let's move over to my other instance. For those who were worrying about LoveLace widgets, I asked the AI once again to create me a view full of LoveLace cards, and you can see I've got a mushroom entity card, a mushroom light card. Let's go into this mode. Mushroom light card. A mushroom fan card, mushroom climate card, a calendar card, a climate card, a button card, a mini graph card, mushroom person card. I don't have a person set up here. Mushroom entity style, a button card styled, a picture entity card with one of my cameras. So you can use 2 things. You'd have cameras one of 2 ways. You can use the widget camera card, a picture card, or you can use the Home Assistant picture card. You got a weather card, entities card, different ones. So there are a couple of cards that I think it trips over, but by and large, I think most of those cards, like, you know, I didn't create a full-blown calendar because the calendar card was good, so I made sure that works. Because, as I said, I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel. If there's some good cards to do certain things, then happy days. But the difference here is, as I said, you know, I can grab the card and move it around. You can have this wherever you want. That's the other thing I was going to say is that, let me show you the alignment stuff later, but you can see when I move things around, you get alignment guides. So it tells you that you're either hard left, or see, I can tell I'm hard. This widget's hard right, left up, hard right against the other widget. What else? So we have, let's have a look at the other views. Here's this one was created with Olama as well. It's a very simple calculator view. I didn't ask too much of it. This I created also with Olama. Now you're probably going, hang on a minute, what's going on here? This is a funny one where I basically said, what I want you to do is use my AC entity. I fed it my AC entity and said, create me a HVAC controller that look like a microwave. And this is Olama again. Olama again in Open Web UI. And that's what it came up with. So that's pretty cool. This is also another one that I did in Olama. This one didn't instantaneously give me this. I think I did 2 after edits with AI to get it to that point, and then I manually added a background to it, but that's still pretty cool. I didn't have to do a lot. This is that HVAC control. That's pretty cool. It's a combination of both LoveLace cards, and it realized that there were some cool LoveLace cards to AI realized there were some cool LoveLace cards to make these in, and it used them in combination with Canvas UI buttons. Now the reason this is small, as you'll see later on, because views can have a specific size. So you can set the size view, and when I show you why that is, you'll see later that why it makes it easier. So, where are we? Cameras. So these are cameras. I ask it to create a camera security system view. And in this case, it decided to use picture entity cards. I think it used picture entity cards. But this is all layout, its own layout. I didn't have to do anything here. Let's see what it used. LoveLace card. It used the picture entity. Yes. Here's a nice light view. I just fed it the entities for some lights. And this is, I said, I'll come up with a lighting control panel. This is very interesting. This is another one where I basically, it's designed to fit on a tablet view. Basically, I fed it my cameras, and I also fed it the entity for person detection. And I said, create a camera viewing system and add person detection indicators to each of the images. And this is what it came up with. So each image is there, and then up here it created these little icons and value for each when a person happens to get detected, and it created a detection summary. That's cool. Let's move on. And you've seen this one already before. Now, this is getting full on. Let's now have a look at. I don't know if this is the demo view here. No. Let's show you about creating a view. So if I want to create a view, all views need to have dimensions before you can lay widgets on it. So if I create a view, and if I create video example, now I can choose a predetermined view if I want here. Right, there's some preset dimensions if you want to choose one of those. But what I can do is if you have a tablet or something and you don't know what the view dimensions are, what happens is when you first create a view, let's do that again. Go down to video view here. Now, each new view, if you don't create a dimension for it, it'll place a resolution widget. Now, what you do with that is if I now go to here, right, you'll notice that in this context, it says my view. So this is the canvas size at the moment is 19 by 1920 by 914, right? If I now go to if you go into kiosk mode, so 1920 by 914, I go into kiosk view now, and I hit F11. It's now showing me the true resolution that I need to choose for this display. Right, so what if you now just take this URL and go and open the browser on your tablet or whatever you're using to view Canvas UI in kiosk mode, take it to that view, to that display, open it up, go full screen, and just note these values. Because then when you go back into here, I can go to view now and change. So my case was 1920 by 1080, and it creates me the view that I know that as long as I keep within those boundaries, it'll be visible on the view. Right? For example, if it had been a smaller tablet view, for example, look, let's get rid of this. Delete. Delete. Right. Now I know this area is set to, for example, the tablet that I was trying to create the view for you. I don't need to create it on the tablet itself. As long as I stay within these boundaries, it'll be viewable in the view. Yeah? Now, remember, let's go back to the full screen. So now it's time to talk about the grid system. So you can have a grid, right? Choose the grid pixel size, and then I like 10, and then you can choose to snap to the widget, to the canvas, to the grid, sorry. And then you've also got the pixel thickness of the grid, and you've got the opacity of the grid, and then you can set the grid color. So let's go ahead. In here, of course, I could enter a manual background image. The reason, once again, this is a box is because I wanted to be able to use the binding system, which we'll talk about in another video. But basically, I can, in an automation, set change the background image on the view. But what you can do now is you can browse, and I'll open the editor, and I can where are we? Images, background image. Voila. There's my background image. Then we can go ahead and place a widget. Give it a name. Go into the widget settings. You can see if I move it around here, obviously these, drag to resize it. Show the icon. Now there's a full icon library widget. You can choose emojis, the full list of MDIs, FA icons, material icons, bootstrap, and ion icons. So we can change that. Change the icon color to yellow. And the button text to red. There's also a complete font picker that you can add custom fonts. Change the icon size. Change the space from the icon between the button and the icon. Change the icon to the top of it, or to the icon only. To the right. Change the font size. Font weight. Now buttons can have as I said before, auto detect the entity. It'll do the best it can to realize what the button needs to do to work with that entity. There's a full entity selector, so you can have a look at. You can go by domains, areas, and then search, and then you can list, add that, select. Requires confirmation. Well, if you click it before the, let me just, okay, it asks you, do you want to activate whatever you're going to click? If you want to give the button haptic feedback, which means you want some visual feedback. So I can click here and I change the click background color to red. Preview. When I click the button now, I get, so it gives me a visual indicator that the button gets clicked. So if I navigate to a view, I can then type the view name in here, and it will navigate to the view, to that view. So you can create a whole menu system along here, and basically, when I show you later on, you can wire the various buttons together, and they'll work like a menu, so that when the one you click changes color, and the one that's not clicked doesn't change color and stuff like that, which we'll show you in other videos. We'll go in more depth. You can go to this one, you can type a URL, and it'll browse through a URL, and then MQTT, so I can then type the topic in here, the payload in here, and then send an MQTT message rather than control an entity, for example. Now, if I show you, let's add a text widget. Call it text 123. Now, let's see if this works. I now have button 1 and text 1, 2, 3. Let's wire this up. Let's create a flow. Call it button wire. Go into here, property, button 1. Let's go with the height and save. And then the set widget. Text. Let's do width. All right, let's wire these together. Cool. And close. Let's see. Let me show you. Let me show you those. Another one. All right. So let's background. Make background red. Borders 30. 30 just for the top. Make the border white. Solid. And shadow. Let's make the shadow color white. And radius spread. What else? Well, let's show you. Is the view here? No, it's in here. Okay, let me show you a little bit of this. So here is something that I set up a flow for color. So I basically had the flow look at the selected hex color of the color widget and then feed that to the background color of a button, and I think it's a text widget. Yep, button and a text widget. And you can see if I go to preview mode, click this, a color picker pops up, change it to blue, and the direct connection between the properties of the widgets. Right, no automation needed. It's all front end. Now, we were talking about gauges before, right? What's interesting is I was talking about icons before, and icons, in the icon settings, you can choose what type, what the icon is. So as in it's, look, so you can have no outline, outlined, or filled outline. Filled outline basically works like a progress bar, in that you fill the icon, that the outline gets created for the icon, you fill it full of one color, in this case the fill color. You choose whether you want it to fill bottom up or top down or left to right or right to left. So this one, in this case, it's bottom up. And what I've done, I'll have a drink. What I've done is also created a front end automation for slider for this, and I've attached some widgets to it. And if I put preview, when I click my widget, you can see the icon is working because the black fill color is covering the initial background color. I also created a gauge view here. But before, when I was showing you talking to about needle only mode, what it does is it just generates a needle that I can plop anywhere I want. In this case, I just put it basically center, and then what I can do is I can set a value in which the angle in which the needle starts at. So if I go all the way to the left, this gauge had to start at its 0 point was 120 degrees, minus 120 degrees. Right, basically close enough. And then its full 50 is positive 120 degrees. So I took an image of a gauge, this one, and then I placed a needle only widget here, and a needle widget here, and just for demo purposes, I connected them to the. And I have a completely custom. I can go and grab all sorts of gauge images and turn them into gauges. We're starting to get a bit long on the video now. Let's 1 hour 36 minutes. Now let's have a look at some of the alignment. So I click this one. As I said, there's alignment here, so I can see visually whether it's centered or it's up against this edge or up against the edge of this one. But I can also multi-select by holding the shift key down and multi-select to get this on, so I can do one of two things. I can move them all around, right, or I can align their left edges. I can make this smaller. The first one I select will be I'm going to resize the text button, the text widget, to match the button width of the button widget. Now, whichever widget I click first in the multi-select here, I can make it the same size. Yeah. So now I can click it again, this one here, and make them the same height. Yeah. I can then move a third widget in, click all three. Now I can make them evenly spaced. Yeah. Move them further apart. And now select them again. Make them evenly spaced. Beautiful. And basically you got a line tops, line left, line right. If you want the widget to be exactly center horizontally, exactly center vertically, you can click those buttons. You can zoom in or zoom out if you want to make the canvas smaller like that. I'll probably do more widget examples later on, but these are some of the cool ones. I think I had a view, so I don't use the energy widget, but here we go. So here's what I was saying before, how basically if I wanted to do my energy view, this one, I just I just look at the I just take this URL, create a view, drag an iframe widget on it, which you can see here, iframe, and then I set it as an external URL, and then I just paste the energy URL in here, and then I just look at set the height, set it to 0, 0, top and left, and then make the iframe exactly the same size as the view. Just to show you, let's go back to the other one. Let's go back to this one. Let's place maybe we'll go like one of the ones we made. So let's add another. Let's add a border widget. Oh, so here's the we just stretch the and then you just change the font however big you want it. Stretch it down to this big. Don't show seconds. Let's add another widget. Digital clock. On-screen keyboard. You can wire that to any entity you want. Change the keyboard style. Compact. Waiting. Yeah. Radio button, widget, background, make it black. And then all you do is set the options here. Select your entity, like your options, what you want to see here, the values that it sends for each of those options, and you choose whether you want it to be vertical or horizontal. So, what else? With a widget. Set the entity. Combat mode. Show the forecast. if this was connected to a weather website, it would show forecasts, or if the entity has forecasts. What else we got? All right, we're getting close to an hour. Let's show you two more things. So scrolling text. Let's show a quick binding example. Let's grab, this is the only reason you need to leave Canvas UI. Let's go into settings. Helpers. Let's do text. Let's use text. Test text. Let's duplicate this screen. Go back to Canvas UI. Let's set the color, the background color, to copy the entity, and inside curly braces, we paste, damn it. Close curly brackets. Now, all things going to plan. I'll change this to the word red. See, I've just basically attached. This is a very basic a binding. So I've just basically, by putting the entity inside curly braces, go and check the GitHub for more examples. But the simplest one is if I wanted to programmingly or through an automation change the background color of this text widget. Now all I've got to do, if I could create a helper, and now I can just type here green, hit enter. Oh. Right. I've got a setting wrong. But you get the idea. Also, I can add, if I with my pixel bay, I can do metal. Oh, I don't have the API keys. The API key set this one, but I can. Let's do this one as a last. Let's do here. Background. Pixabay. Metal. Metal. Vector. Metal. There's a good one. Interesting. And I think that's got to do with I need to disconnect. Anyway, let's do another one because I have to disconnect. Let's drop another. Here that's not connected. Is it a transparent? And Bob's your uncle. So I can grab this one. Browse. Whatever you want. Or you can change the image. Got to make it. Okay, so the last thing to finish off our 2-hour whirlwind. Hope you're stuck with me. This has been awesome. Okay, so it's you can add a screensaver. Obviously, there's a ton of extra videos I'll create on the way. I just wanted to get people in to see what it can and can't do. So, if you want a screensaver, you drop a screensaver widget, and you can do one of two things. I've just set this to 10 seconds for now, and if I'll put in the dim overlay. And you can choose how you want it to be dismissed. Now, as I said, you can see it in edit mode. You can't see it in preview mode, and it doesn't work unless you're in kiosk mode. So if I go to kiosk mode here, let's do it again. Got 10 seconds because I'm in dim mode at the moment. And she dims until and then if I change the mode to navigate to a view, in this case I'll choose just a button demo view. Let's have a look again. Wait 10 seconds. And this obviously can be a view with a clock on it, or weather, or whatever, and it changes to that, to wherever the set view is. And then obviously you can come in here and tap and dismiss it. So with that, I would like to thank everybody who's stuck around this long. Hope you have a blast. Give me heaps of feedback. I think it's going to be, I can't wait to see how many people use it. I love it. It's a cracker. I've enjoyed creating it, and I please share all your ideas. Give me a clip behind the ears for anything that I've made a mistake on. So yeah, bloody enjoy, you buggers. See ya.